Continuing on with the mid-year changes that the Georgia Association of Realtors has made to the contract package available to agents July 1st, 2024. Hi, everybody. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors and director of the Real Estate Academy of America. Thank you so much for joining me on this series on the changes that the Georgia Association of Realtors, or GAR, has made to their contract package in coming out, as I said, July 2024. This is early June 2024, and I have an advance copy and I'm sharing the changes with you, agents in Georgia. Please click below on videos or playlists and find the rest of the videos in the series. I will also link the individual videos below. Today's topic is a brief one. It covers the change that GAR has made on the consumer brochures. So let's dive in and we shall go from there. So I'm going to share my screen and we will cover what GAR has done for those changes. So GAR has changed. Again, GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors, comes out with a new contract package the beginning of every year, and then they do a mid-year change. The mid-year change for 2024 has a lot of changes in light of recent issues regarding everything going on in the news with NAR, so forth and so on. So just sort of to catch you up to speed, one of the main changes or universal changes that GAR has made throughout all of their contracts is wherever it references or formally referenced or stated commission, it now uses the term compensation. And today's video has to do with a change that GAR has made to two of the consumer brochures. The first one is CB10, Protect Yourself When Selling Real Property. And the other one is CB13, Protect Yourself When Buying Real Property. Throughout the form, wherever it did say commission, it does now say compensation. Additionally, there is a brand new section in both forms. This is called Brokers Compensation for Professional Services to Broker, quote, compensation. A broker's compensation in Georgia and who pays it is always negotiable. Such compensation can be paid by the seller, the buyer, or both. Some buyers will ask the seller to pay the compensation the buyer owes to the buyer's broker. They may do this for a couple of reasons. First, if the buyer is getting a VA loan, the buyer may not be permitted under the loan program to pay the buyer broker's compensation. I'm going to pause there and just let you know that as of the time of this recording, the Veterans Administration has changed their guidelines, and just check at the time you are writing an offer what the current guidelines are for a VA borrower in terms of paying a broker's compensation, because they just changed last week. And this is again June. Today is early June 2024. So check with your lender. I don't want to put anything in the video because in case the VA changes it again. Continuing on with the consumer brochure. Others, particularly first-time home buyers, may not be able to afford to pay the buyer broker's compensation if it is not included in the buyer's mortgage loan. When a buyer asks the seller to pay the compensation owed by the buyer to the buyer's broker, the buyer, I lost my place. The buyer is effectively making the compensation part of the sales price for the property because most sellers will focus on their net proceeds after the broker's compensation is paid. When the seller is not initially offering to pay the buyer's broker's compensation and the buyer wants the seller to pay this obligation, the buyer will usually include a special stipulation to that effect in their offer to purchase the property. If permitted by the buyer's lender, the buyer can also request the seller to make a monetary contribution at closing as per the GAR purchase and sale agreement, which can then be used by the buyer to pay for, among other things, any compensation owed to the buyer's broker. Now, I just want to share with you, because that new paragraph in the consumer brochures does reference a special stipulation and the purchase and sale agreement, let me show you in the GAR contract package what that special stipulation is and exactly where that is in the GAR purchase and sale agreement. So the special stipulation, two special stipulations that GAR has written for agents in Georgia and that are referenced in the new paragraph in the consumer brochure, Special Stipulation 619 and Special Stipulation 620. They are the same, with the only difference being the reference to the VA loan. Again, the Veterans Administration has just changed their regulations. So agents, you need to check with a lender if you have a borrower, a buyer getting a VA insured loan, to see what the current regulations are regarding the VA buyer paying compensation. But let me read you these special stipulations. Special Stipulation 619 states, since under the VA loan program, buyer cannot pay buyer's brokers a commission, buyer hereby requests seller, and seller hereby agrees to pay buyer's brokers at closing the following compensation for professional services. And then you select one. Either it's expressed as a flat fee, as a % of the sale price, or other. Then it goes on to say, to be in compliance with Georgia license law, nothing herein shall be interpreted as a request to alter, modify, or change the commission to be received by seller's broker, if any, that the seller may have agreed to pay the seller's broker in any separate written agreement. And then likewise, Special Stipulation 620, same verbiage, just without the reference to a VA loan. Buyer hereby requests and seller hereby agrees to pay buyer's broker at closing the following compensation for professional services. That amount expressed as a dollar amount, % of the sale price, other. Nothing herein shall be interpreted as a request to alter, modify, or change the commission to be received by the seller's broker, if any, that the seller may have agreed to pay seller's broker in any separate written agreement. Now, let me show you again in that paragraph, in the new paragraph in the consumer brochure, where it references the sellers paying a buyer's compensation obligation to their broker out of closing costs. It does reference the GAR purchase and sale agreement. So let me show you specifically what they're talking about. So in the GAR purchase and sale agreement, which is F201, under the closing cost section, there is more to this section. I just highlighted the part we're talking about right now. Under paragraph A3 is where the buyer and the seller negotiate the seller's contribution to the buyer's closing costs. In the corresponding paragraph B3, it does state, at closing, sellers shall make the reference seller's monetary contribution, which the buyer may use to pay any cost or expense of buyer related to this transaction, including, without limitation, any commission obligations of the buyer. Buyer acknowledges that buyer's mortgage lender may not allow the seller's monetary contribution or the full amount thereof to be used for some costs or expenses. In such event, Any unused portion of the seller's monetary contribution shall remain the property of the seller. So, buyer's agents, y'all need to definitely make sure to check with your buyer's lender because depending on the type of loan the buyer is getting and the amount of down payment is what dictates the amount of outside contributions, monetary contributions a buyer can receive from others, including the seller, that can be used for any of their costs, including their commission obligations. Woo! Hope this contract tip and this explanation or presentation of the mid-year changes, 2024 mid-year changes that the Georgia Association of Realtors is making or has made to the contract package has helped you out. I'm Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education. Bye. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.